Hello, a very good day to everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Mei Ling, and I have with me my colleague Vivian. We are both from the Kantar Profiles Division. And today we'll be discussing with you our webinar topic, Assessing the Already Connected Consumer. So let's begin. So today, consumers are increasingly merging their mobile devices with their environment, aiming at a more integrated, simple, yet seamless experience. To better understand these audiences, it is important that we as researchers understand this behavior and reach out to them in the environment they are most comfortable in. Well, the good thing about these connected consumers is that they are already connected. This means they are one step closer to us. Advances in technology and the engaging nature of social networks are making it possible to engage with them in more meaningful ways while creating more actionable and robust profiles. With the more recent data privacy regulation focus, such as GDPR and PDPA, consumer permissions is vital in making data trusted and actionable. Now, combining a permission-based network with consumers' preferred touchpoints and tools, in a language and environment that they are familiar with, is the key to rich data. Now, in this webinar, we will explore some of these developments that can better pinpoint real consumer opinions. A recent Kantar Consumer View shows that the smartphones are the most widely owned devices at 87%. It is also found that on average, a person picks up their mobile 58 times a day and spends an average of 3 hours daily on their smartphone. Consumers' heavy reliance on their mobile has opened up opportunities for us as marketers to reach out to them. Now, the question is whether or not we have fully leveraged on the relationship people have with their smartphones. Now, apart from the heavy reliance on their smartphones, 9 out of 10 consumers are using it to go online. While smartphones are the primary device that people use to go online, it is not the only device. If we take a deeper look into the connected consumer, we found that the adoption rates for devices vary from country to country. If you look at the chart on the right-hand side, you will see that the smartphone ownership is particularly higher in developing regions such as Asia and Brazil. On top of that, smart TVs are also catching up in these regions. Smart speakers and home assistants may only see a 21 global ownership rate, but interestingly, we see the Chinese ownership double that of the global average. Now, more importantly, of those who own these devices globally, close to a third have reported to having 2 or more devices at home. Thus, for any materials or surveys reaching out to the consumer, we need to ensure that it adapts well with the said devices. Now, I'll pass the floor to Vivian.
Thanks, Mei Ling. So obviously what we want to focus on here is the consumer and the channels they share information with rather than the devices they connect with. We need to be cross-device anyway. Ideally, we would live in a world where we say what we think and we do what we say. But in our fast-paced world, we post before we think, we multitask a little bit too much, and we don't even necessarily know what we do. So understanding people holistically means we need to be there to ask and to listen to them in different environments at different times and in different ways. Bias, of course, will always be there, but limiting ourselves to one point in time and one environment is not anymore enough. What I'm saying might be a little bit scary or confusing, so here are 4 tips for you to hopefully feel better. First, what people think, say, need, and do, and where they do all that is not necessarily the same. Second, and the consequence to that, is that data from each source can be contradictory, and that's fine. It only depicts consumer behavior better across channels and across situations. Third, it also means we must be disciplined in the way we ask or listen to data. This discipline should be the new rules market researchers live by. And that's what Mei-Ling and I are going to insist on today. Fourth and last, the lines are blurring about data sources. If you take social networks, for example, they can both be a source and a platform to collect the 4 types of data you see on this slide. Now our purpose today is to deconstruct this into 4 main categories. Mei-Ling will cover surveys. Surveys belong to the traditional market research world, but they also need to evolve into the new multi-channel and pluri-data world. And then I'll take over for social, search, and passive. Back to you, Mei-Ling.
Thank you, Vivian. So what do people think? The best way to know is to ask. Surveys have been an age-old approach that researchers have been using for years, and it has served us well in obtaining consumer opinions. To keep up with the modern consumer, we need to also modernize survey designs to keep up with the times. Modern survey design focuses on keeping surveys short, mobile, and engaging. To serve a survey on a mobile device, it is essential to design it with the consumer in mind. At Kantar, we apply our award-winning Question Arts Intelligence component to all online surveys. The Question Arts tool uses intelligent layout rules that are structurally adaptive to fit the various screen sizes. On top of that, it fully utilizes the touch screen function to administer layouts such as the slider, collapsing grids, and advanced drag and drop features. Consumers today are pampered with an array of exciting contents at their fingertips. Throwing them a bunch of questions is not enough to motivate and engage them. We need to start thinking like a creative director or even a storyteller, turning our otherwise boring surveys into a story to capture attention and engage the audience can make a world of difference. Now, another way to engage the audience is to apply gamification techniques into our surveys. Here at Kantar, we've done several research on research to test out various gamification rules on surveys to see whether it makes an impact. We summarize the process into 4 key points, and they are: 1. Making it voluntary to the respondent. 2. Giving it purpose. 3. Applying rules to give it a sense of competition. And lastly, delivering the promised rewards. Now, if you use these rules appropriately, you can then turn any survey task into a game. Now, to share an example, we tested 2 methods of asking a simple question to 2 groups of respondents. In the first group, we asked the question in our usual manner, and in the second group, we asked it using a component of competition in it. So in the first group, we asked this question: make a list of your favorite foods. On average, the respondents gave us 6 food items. For the second group, we added in a little bit of a challenge, and we put it: you have 2 minutes to make a list of your favorite foods. Now, interestingly, the average respondent gave us 35 food items. Now, that is almost 6 times more responses than the first group. Gamification, rightly applied, can make it easier to extract information out of the consumer. Asking questions in the right format, in an engaging and fun manner, is still the best way to get direct feedback from the connected consumer. Now I'll pass it on back to Vivian to touch on listening and mining.
Thanks a lot, Mei-Ling. So I have 10 minutes to speak about 4 topics that are very dear to me, and I could speak about 2 hours for each of them. Wish me luck, and let's go. So now that we know what to do with the more traditional part of our industry, we also need to consider expanding our horizon. Let's start with social. Social channels have been considered for a long time as a way to passively listen to what people say. But there is much more than that. Social apps are used by 3 out of 4 people, and in advanced markets like Brazil or China, this goes even higher, 83% for Brazil, 81% for China. So that sounds like a pretty great way to engage people. So let's divide social into 2 parts, the listening and the engaging. The listening first. Social media listening data provides an unfiltered real-life snapshot of what consumers are saying. Let's keep a few things in mind when we listen. First, remember that social data is essentially qualitative data on a quantitative scale. Then it's unstructured data, text data in massive volumes. Third, the unit of analysis is a verbatim. So that's not the same type of representativeness as survey data, where you have a survey unit of analysis that is a respondent. Fourth, we don't work with 100% clean data, but what we call research-grade quality data, which is around 70 to 90% clean data, depending on the kind of relevance we are talking about. It's worth noting that Kantar research grade is higher than the one used by classic social media listening platforms. And last, but very importantly, retrieving quality data is dependent on the query writing skill of the end user. The best platform can produce junk if the researcher is unable to write effective queries. So now social is much bigger than just traditional social media. That's when the engaging part comes in. Social platforms, now extending into the private space of messaging, open up a lot of opportunities to have an ongoing dialogue with consumers through conversational AI. So what is conversational AI? Well, first, it's an environment best suited to answer open-ended, strategic, and exploratory business questions. Second, it's an open, intelligent, and adaptive dialogue to uncover what we do not know. Or simply, it's just a rich one-to-one conversation at scale. It's also a way for me not to say but or but, and so you can understand that conversational AI is not just chatbots. Conversational AI delivers a more impactful consumer engagement collected in a smarter and faster way. With all this social background, what should stay top of mind when dealing with consumers on messaging platforms? So two main things mainly. First, since we are evolving in an environment where people are already familiar with, we need to stay fun and engaging. We need to reflect the way people engage with each other on such platforms. And second, though it's AI boosted, we need to keep the human element in the loop. Bots need to be humanized to produce rich conversations in a custom tone driven by their persona. So overall, conversational AI answers the fundamentals of mobile, being short, sharp, and maximizing engagement. But it delivers much higher response rates than other channels, very much because of its higher engagement. Here on this slide, you can see a few examples of where we run chatbots, quite an extensive list of markets, as you can see, across all continents and for quite a wide range of industries. Obviously, with the reach of the Facebook ecosystem, conversational AI can happen anywhere, but it does not mean that we should do this for everything. Conversational AI is not replacing any current or old methodology. It's new and it's unique. In the brand world, bots are quickly being adopted by consumers to converse with brands. It started with basic customer service, It's evolving into many other things. For us in market research, it opens up the opportunity for an ongoing dialogue with consumers. It's at the crossroad of qualitative and quantitative, offering more in-depth ways to better understand today's connected consumers. Conversational AI gives the chance to engage in a more interactive and flowing manner. It's more natural for most people than a typical survey response. Okay, let's leave social and what people think and say. I hope you guys are still following. Let's talk about what people need, or at least what people think they need. So what do you do when you need something? Basically, you fire up your smartphone and you Google it. Simply, that's what search and web intelligence is mostly about. What information people look for and how they do it. It's a very rich source of information, and it also massively helps to lessen the load on surveys while giving a much better picture of the situation. And it helps our clients with many things, from optimizing organic and paid acquisition, SEO, SEM, media buying, and all the ROI that drives, to tracking competitors' marketing activities, but also to find out or discover the market share of individual keywords. And again, many more things. But as much as for social, search and web intelligence has limitations. The basic and most obvious ones that I will mention today would be, first, that some audiences are still offline, or they behave dramatically differently because of poor connectivity. And the second one that might be obvious, but not obvious for everybody, is that Google is not the norm everywhere. That's very true for China, and it's less true than before, but still true for markets like Korea or Japan. They used to be dominated by other players like Naver or Yahoo, and now they are moving to a Google environment. Further than classic web and search data, much of the data we produce these days can be classified as passive behavioral data. In simple terms, that's everything we do on connected devices. So why is that important? Well, simply because nobody can accurately tell what they do on their connected devices and how much they do it. We are just massively underestimating this. Please just check your screen time now. Mine currently tells me that I should just drop my phone and spend some time away from screens. So what do we do with that? As the name suggests, with passive, there is no active interaction whatsoever with the user. Data matching and profiling is not intended for exact matching purposes, but to broadly capture attitudes, behaviors, or location patterns of similar audiences rather than individuals. While helping to deep dive into the profiling of your key audience, passive behavioral data can also help to inform partner marketing and refine both content and targeting. All right, so back to discipline. What do we need to keep in mind regarding passive behavioral data? First, there are many ways of getting and analyzing passive data. But one common trait is working with people profile or lookalike models rather than respondent level data. Having said that, there are also ways to work with respondent level data that are extremely powerful to link up with survey results, but they tend to be more costly and slower. It really highly depends on the type of insights you need. And lastly, again, very much like social data, this is highly about volumes. Use what you need and drop the rest. So on this slide, you can just see quickly a few examples of how to use passive. For example, you can just understand travel habits, hobbies, or gaming habits, or just the data usage of your consumers. If you want to compare 3, 4, 5G usage versus Wi-Fi, high data users, video lovers, etc. You can also use passive to identify key opportunity moments per site, per category, per activity through real, again, and not claim data. And one thing that's very interesting for market researchers is to understand the consumer journey before, while, and after purchasing. Okay, I hope you guys are still there. We couldn't finish this presentation without talking about the dark side and how machine learning can help us in all the 4 categories of data that Mei Ling and I talked about today. There is another area that affects everything we say, think, need, or do online. Whether you're the receiver or the source, it's a growing concern. Just over the past 5 years, tens of millions of dollars have disappeared to fraud. And fighting fraud is all beneficial as it helps to increase speed, capacity, and the validity and consistency of data. So how do we do it? Kantar's fraud detection system is using a machine learning classification model to more accurately identify fraudulent activity. It's called a boosted decision tree algorithm. It might sound like a mouthful, but the principle is relatively simple. A boosted decision tree is just many decision trees coming together as one big tree. Boosting means that each tree is dependent and is improved by the outcome of the prior tree. So boosted decision trees improve accuracy, a bit like blockchain. And if you apply that to over 40 countries, our machine learning algorithm ended up spotting 36 different features that could identify propensity for fraud in a newly registered panelist. And of course, that helps market research data users in many ways with accurate detection that can be acted on. We are now identifying fraudulent actors with 89% precision in real time. So just to give you some perspective, prior to this, achieving the same level of precision required dozens of hours of manual checking. Machine learning helps to find 90% of the fraud that is checked manually, while manual checks only find 75% of the fraud the machine finds. Yes, machine can be smarter than us. So we get faster delivery due to reduced evaluation and sample replacement time, and we also get increased capacity because we know which recruitment sources are worth leveraging. Overall, the impact is very wide, and it also helps reducing panel acquisition costs and redemption costs. That's it. We've come to the end of the presentation today. We hope we've helped you to realize that the connected consumer can actually help us to simplify the integration of new tech in our industry, and that in turn, tech can help us unlock new audiences. Thank you so much again, and we are ready for questions.